Hey folks, in today's Conundrum we will cover the case of Patrick Wayne Kearney, born on September 24, 1939, who earned infamous monikers such as the Trash Bag Killer and the Freeway Killer. Operating between 1962 and 1977, this American serial killer and necrophile unleashed terror across Southern California, mercilessly ending the lives of at least 21 young men and boys. Kearney, alongside William Bonin and Randy Kraft, forms the trio known as the Freeway Killer. These men shared a chilling similarity in their choice of victims and the timeline of their heinous acts. Their reign of terror cast a dark shadow over California during those troubling years. Welcome back to Conundrum, where we delve into the minds and history of serial killers. If you like this type of content, please subscribe, and put the notifications bell on so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Thank you for being here. Patrick Wayne Kearney was born on September 24, 1939, as the eldest of three sons in a middle-class family, providing a relatively stable upbringing. However, his early life was marred by adversity and disturbing inclinations. Due to his frail and sickly nature, Kearney became an easy target for bullies at school, enduring frequent beatings and relentless taunts of being a queer, despite his professed interest in girls. These relentless assaults fueled his seclusion and nurtured sinister fantasies, often involving the graphic act of skinning his personal enemies alive. Furthermore, Kearney developed sexual desires entangled with domination, which escalated to engaging in bestiality by the age of 13. While Kearney was born in East Los Angeles, California, he also resided in Texas for a period. Following a short-lived marriage that ended in divorce, he returned to California and found employment as an engineer at Hughes Aircraft. During his early years in California, Kearney honed his skills as a pickup artist within the gay community. He primarily sought out partners in San Diego and Tijuana, Mexico, leveraging his fluency in Spanish and deep interest in Latin American culture to establish connections. Kearney claimed his first victim was a hitchhiker he picked up and murdered in Orange, California, around 1962. He admitted to perpetrating several more killings, predominantly targeting transients. In 1967, Kearney relocated to Redondo Beach, near Los Angeles, accompanied by his lover, David Hill, cementing their relationship. Patrick Wayne Kearney's murderous activities unfolded with disturbing precision and an escalating level of cruelty. As tensions grew between Kearney and his partner David Hill, Kearney sought solace in long, solitary drives in his Volkswagen Beetle or truck. These drives often served as hunting expeditions, as Kearney would target young male hitchhikers or individuals he met at gay bars. Kearney, a necrophile, adhered to a consistent modus operandi when it came to both the killings and disposal of the victims' remains. Kearney, aware of his slight build, devised a system of subduing victims that minimized the chances of failure or physical confrontation. Unlike his fellow freeway killers, he did not derive sadistic pleasure from causing pain. Instead, he favored speed and efficiency in his methods. While Kearney later confessed to post-mortem mutilation out of curiosity, such as cutting open the victims' stomachs, he ensured that no physical suffering was inflicted. According to Kearney's recollections, his first murder occurred in the spring of 1962. The victim remains unidentified but was confirmed to be a 19-year-old white male. Kearney convinced the young man to take a ride on his motorcycle to a secluded area outside Indio, California. Once there, Kearney fatally shot him in the head and proceeded to sexually assault the lifeless body. Although it is unclear if the victim's remains were ever discovered, Kearney confessed to this murder as well as two others in 1962. One of these victims was the younger cousin of his initial target, who witnessed the fateful encounter. Kearney's first confirmed and convicted murder took place around Christmas of 1968 in Culver City, a year after he and David Hill had begun living together. The victim, known as George, was enticed into Kearney's vehicle in San Diego before being taken to Kearney's residence. Once inside, George was shot in the head without warning and then dragged to the bathroom, where he was sodomized, skinned, and dismembered in the bathtub using an X-Acto knife. Kearney even extracted the bullet from the victim's head to eliminate any trace of his involvement. The dismembered remains were buried behind Kearney's garage. Afraid of attracting attention due to George's disappearance, Kearney refrained from killing for over a year. To this day, the victim's identity remains unknown, with only his first name recorded. Over time, Kearney refined his techniques, allowing him to carry out his murderous acts more efficiently and frequently. Starting in 1974, Kearney is estimated to have committed murders almost monthly. After picking up victims along freeways or in gay bars, Kearney would shoot them in the temple above the ear with a Derringer .22 pistol, while steering the vehicle with his other hand and keeping an eye on the speed to avoid arousing suspicion. Following the killings, he would leave the victims' bodies in a seated position and drive to secluded areas where he would engage in acts of necrophilia. Following these acts, Kearney would often dismember the remains using a hacksaw before disposing of them in various locations, such as canyons, landfills, or along freeways. The victims' bodies were usually concealed in industrial trash bags. In some instances, Kearney left the bodies in the desert, where they could be consumed by scavenging animals. To minimize evidence, he would drain the victim's blood to reduce odor and occasionally wash the body parts to remove dried blood and fingerprints. Kearney also took part in post-mortem beatings of his victims, viewing it as a cathartic exercise that allowed him to vent his suppressed anger and exert a sense of power. Many of the victims bore a resemblance to individuals who had bullied Kearney during his childhood. While Kearney predominantly targeted young men, there were also known cases involving children and adolescents. One of the youngest victims was 5-year-old Ronald Dean Smith, who vanished in Lenox, California, in August 1974. His body was discovered in Riverside County 2 months later. Another victim, 8-year-old Merle Hondo Chance from Venice, disappeared in April 1977 while supposedly riding his bicycle near Kearney's workplace. Kearney confessed to smothering the boy, taking his body home overnight, and later disposing of the remains in the Angeles National Forest. Chance's decomposed remains were found in May 1977. Merle Chance was Kearney's last known victim. On June 16, 1976, Kearney killed 13-year-old Michael Craig McGee from Redondo Beach. Records confirmed that McGee had a history of juvenile delinquency. Kearney claimed to have picked up McGee while he was hitchhiking from Lenox to Torrance. Kearney, perceiving McGee as a potential threat, shot him without warning after the boy openly boasted about his criminal exploits and inquired about burglar alarms in Kearney's home. Kearney suggested that he disposed of McGee's remains, stating, "You aren't going to find him." John Otis LeMay, a 17-year-old, became the victim whose murder ultimately led to Kearney's arrest. On Sunday, March 13, 1977, LeMay informed a neighbor that he was going to Redondo Beach to meet a man named Dave, whom he had encountered at a local gym. This person was, in fact, David Hill, who provided LeMay with Kearney's address. Upon arriving at Kearney's residence, LeMay was invited inside and asked to wait for Hill, who was not present at the time. Without provocation, Kearney impulsively shot LeMay in the back of the head. Kearney then dismembered the corpse and disposed of the remains in the desert. During the peak of his killing spree, Kearney's idiosyncrasies largely went unnoticed. However, Jerry Stevens, a local grocery store owner, observed Kearney's frequent purchases of butcher knives and detected an eerie quietness about him. Kearney's supervisor at Hughes Aircraft described him as a diligent and unassuming worker. The capture and imprisonment of Patrick Wayne Kearney marked the end of his gruesome killing spree. On March 18, 1977, the remains of John Otis LeMay were discovered. Prior to this discovery, the police had already visited Kearney's home during their investigation into LeMay's disappearance, leading them to realize that LeMay had been seen with Kearney and David Hill. Warrants were subsequently issued for the arrest of Kearney and Hill on June 3rd. In an attempt to evade capture, Kearney resigned from his job, and the two fugitives fled to El Paso, Texas. However, the families of Kearney and Hill managed to persuade them to surrender. On July 1st, 1977, Kearney turned himself in at the Riverside County Sheriff's Office, accompanied by Hill. David Hill, then 36 years old, was eventually cleared of any involvement in Kearney's crimes and was released. Upon his arrest, Kearney made a chilling confession. Initially, he admitted to 28 murders, but later, he confessed to an additional 7 killings. In order to avoid the death penalty, Kearney agreed to plead guilty. He was charged with 21 counts of murder and, as part of his plea agreement, pleaded guilty to all charges. Consequently, Kearney received 21 life sentences. Although police were convinced that Kearney was responsible for the other 7 murders he had confessed to, they lacked sufficient physical evidence to bring charges against him. As of 2022, Kearney remains incarcerated at California's Mule Creek State Prison, where he will spend the rest of his life. The case of Patrick Wayne Kearney is a grim reminder of the horrifying depths of human depravity. Kearney's heinous acts and the immense suffering he inflicted upon his victims and their families evoke deep moral questions about the nature of evil and the sanctity of life. I felt very disturbed while researching for this case. Thank you to all who have stuck with me until the end of the video. All small creators like me have certain goals in mind when we embark on this journey, and reaching 1/4 of that goal is my first significant milestone. Since we all share a common interest in similar topics, my idea is to organize a giveaway for a 1-year Curiosity Stream subscription plan once we reach 250 subscribers. This giveaway will serve as a token of appreciation for your support thus far. I'm genuinely grateful to have you all here with me. Comment down below if you have any recommendations for my future uploads. I am Alex, and this was Conundrum. Stay curious and stay safe.